No one chooses addiction. It's a complex health condition. And when people have other health conditions, we show up, we help out. Addiction is no different. Make the connection, have the conversation, stop the stigma.
Joined now by our Friday regular NHL insider, part of the Ray and Drake's Hockey Podcast, and of course ESPN color commentator, Mr. Ray Ferraro. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm home for a few days. The weather's like beyond impeccable. I mean, like, this is crazy. And we've got you may have heard college basketball is a thing in the States. So we have a break. There's no hockey at ESPN for 2 weeks. So I'm headed to Germany on Wednesday. I haven't seen Landon play live in 4 years, so really looking forward to that.
Cool.
Yeah, he's back and healthy. Good luck with all that. That's good.
Yeah, thank you.
You had the Sedins on Ray and Dregs, and I'm sure you heard their Hall of Fame speeches on Monday. What stuck out with for you with the week that was for these two legendary Canucks? You know,
it is astounding that I'm going to use this phrase, but I don't mean that they play a character, but they're never out of character. Like, their humility strikes me time and time again, whether you see them on the Hall of Fame stage in their speech, or you run into them at the soccer field, or you happen to run across them somewhere else. Their view of team over individual. Like, one of the things we asked them was, about their role right now, working in development. What are the strengths they see in the kids today, and what are the needs, where they can help? And immediately they went to learning to use their teammates, because, kids learn so much individual skill that they don't often understand using teammates as the games get better. And to me, it's all the same thing. It's all the Sedins, the way they lived, the way they played. I asked at one point, we talked about their marathon running. And I said, so when you guys are running, like, in the same race, like, are you racing each other or are you racing the clock? And Daniel said, well, what do you think? And I said, yeah, you're racing each other. I mean, that's they're so consistent. And I can see it. I think as they've given us more of a glimpse of who they are, can't you kind of tell, like, once they finally got it, like, once they became NHL players, you can see why they were so consistent, because everything they did was so consistent.
Not to get too derailed on this, but as we think about that Hall of Fame class and those three guys that have the Canuck ties in particular, I was sort of thinking to myself, God, I wish we could just get these guys to be themselves. And I know why they can't be themselves in front of the microphones all the time, because we parse everything that they say. And I think individual athletes, like golfers, tennis players, they've got it easier, Ray, because we never parse what they say through the through the team prism. And we, anytime these team players say something, we think that it's subverting something on the team and all that sort of thing. Like, we let the golfers and Rory McIlroy go off and that sort of thing, and it's sort of water off our ducks' backs because they're not doing anything against the team code, or we're not reading into it.
Blake, they don't have to answer to anybody else either.
Right.
So if their opinion is, aggressive or outrageous or controversial or different, it doesn't matter. It's just them.
Yeah.
Yet the next day you walk in to the locker room and there's 23 guys looking at you. My rookie season, we were playing the Islanders, and somebody asked, and the Islanders still were, their power play was Potvin, Bossy, Trottier, Gillies, like, it's all the guys. And here are us, little whippersnappers. We're all 20 years old, but we had some older guys too. And so they beat us. It was 3-2, 4-3, something like that. And they asked I happened to score, and they asked what I thought. And I said, well, look, we can't compete with their experience, but if you give us our younger guys against their younger guys, I'll take us every time. I thought it was a relatively insightful statement. However, the veterans the next day didn't see it the same way, which basically meant that I thought our veterans were no good and our younger guys were really good.
Right.
So that went well. But if I was a golfer, nobody would have cared.
Right.
So which
an
veteran?
algebraic it was an algebraic equation, and the X there didn't work so well. And
no, we didn't balance the equation well enough.
Yeah.
Which veteran in particular, Ray, brought this to your attention?
Oh, all of them. There was a black X taped in my stall. I knew what that meant.
Okay, back to the Twins. As we transition to this year's team, Daniel's saucering passes over to Brock Boeser at practice yesterday. Is that it, considering, and the only reason it's of note is because Boeser's sitting on 0 goals? Do you think there's some purpose there for Daniel Sedin?
Well, yeah. I mean, the purpose is repetition and to start feeling good about the way you shoot the puck. It's amazing when you slump, even at practice, when you shoot the puck, it doesn't make you feel good because you don't put it in the right spot enough times. It doesn't matter if there's a goalie there or not. Like I don't know Brock at all, but I can guess that there were shots he took that were probably pretty good shots, and he went, I hit the goalie right in the chest. You know, like you start to crack back on yourself a little bit. When the only way out of it is to find enough confidence through repetition that you relax. But I've thought this two things I'm going to say about, because they both relate to Boeser. Number one is an NHL player should never try or never not try to get better. Just because you're there doesn't mean you're there and everything's great. The drive has to be to continually develop and reinforce and to fine tune everything that you do that's put you in this league. That's the first thing. The second thing, I've always thought this about Boeser since the very first couple of games that I saw him, was his key is not his shot. His key is the ability, because he's not a great skater. Like he's not a blazer by any stretch. His whole key to me is to be able to separate 2 feet from the guy checking him. Not 10 feet, just 2 feet, because he doesn't need much time to shoot it. And right now, I don't see that separation. So while we're looking at the goals, I'm looking at his feet. And I'm thinking, if he can just find that separation, he doesn't need 10 chances to score. But he's got to find the separation.
That has been the case for a while, Ray, and he was a better goal scorer as a younger player. So is that, because we always talked about, he's got pretty good hockey IQ, right? Like you watch him go out there and he's pretty smart. Is that a function just of an ever-quickening league, an ever-improving league, that he can't find that space?
Well, I guess it's possible, but you know who I think of him a lot like is David Perron. David Perron's been the slowest player on his team for every team that he's played on. That guy can play because he can think and he can find open ice, and he's got enough of a stride, a push off to get a couple of feet of ice. Now, he's more of a passer than a shooter, but just think of how many times you see Perron all of a sudden separate a bit. Now he's got enough room. He makes a great pass, or he shoots it, and he's got a heavy shot like Boeser does. So the league quick, but he's not going to be that. So you have to find a way to make your skills available. And I think it's fine to shoot the one-timers while you're standing still. It's more important to find a couple of feet of ice. And you can work on that. And again, it's just repetition, and it's slow, and it doesn't happen all at once. But pretty soon you start realizing, whether it's true or not, hey, I've got a couple of feet. Now, nothing might have changed, but in his head, you start to think a little different. And I think that's key. Like, the Kings are here tonight. Anze Kopitar's not fast. Not at all. But as the league gets quicker, he's led the team in scoring 14 of 15 years. He's clearly figured out a way to find himself a couple of feet of ice.
Maybe Boeser should take a page out of Perron's book, and I say this as a compliment. He's a bit of a dick. Maybe a little butt end, a little across. Maybe that creates some space around you.
Perron is not a pleasant guy to play against. If you you can't, sometimes you can't be what you're not. But if you look at how many times there's a scrum and somebody's trying to grab Perron by the neck, it's a lot. Which of course I kind of like. But I mean, they're both right-handed. They're both kind of built the same. They both have kind of the same stride. They got kind of shortish strides. They're not, flying up and down the ice. And I've thought that there's a similarity between the two of them.
to your point about improving, we've mentioned this already, but it would curious about your take on Bo Horvat. I think he's gotten better. I think his release. To me, it's no accident he's on a bit of a tear here, more than a bit of a tear, because I think he's worked on that release. It is lightning quick. It's amongst the league best.
I'll start with his skating, because remember when he came in, the knock was that, like that, and I thought, because I had seen him at the juniors, that this is a third line centerman, because he's not going to be quite fast enough, and he's strong, and I think he'll probably be good on face-offs once he gets a little older. And then, of course, he got older, and, he's fantastic on, it's like his arms are going to fall off for the number of draws that he takes. But he worked. You don't just get faster. You've got to work at it. And he clearly worked at it to improve his skating. The last game, guys, there were a couple places he shot the puck from. I don't remember him shooting it from there. Like, I think not just his delivery and release has improved, but his mindset has changed into, I've got it and I'm in a decent spot, not even a great spot. I'm shooting it. And he has changed the way he plays a little bit for sure. And I think shot volume and shot velocity and shot release have all changed in his eyes and mind. And I mean, the results are phenomenal. I mean, this is an amazing start. It's really remarkable. It's like you see a game on the calendar and you kind of expect that he's going to score.
We wondered yesterday, and we thought we'd ask you. He's a smart guy. He plays center ice. He's used in a matchup role, even if he isn't quite a shutdown centerman. Why does he not make a better penalty killer? What is it that you see that doesn't make Bo a better penalty killer? Because we sometimes get amused, Ray. We see these reports from back east about, the 200-foot two-way centerman, and that is Bo Horvat, and we always go, yeah, wish he killed penalties a little more, or wish he killed penalties a little better.
Well, you might be asking the wrong guy. I got one shorthanded goal in my career, like
right.
The entire thing. Yeah. So that was 1,258 games and however many playoff games, I think 68 or something. And the reason I got the shorthanded goal because I was already in the penalty box and somebody else took another penalty. And I came out and the puck jumped over the D's stick and I got a breakaway. I wasn't killing the penalty. So I might be
you weren't the guy at the top of the diamond trying to poke check between the
First
two defensemen
all,
passing past the
We didn't play a diamond then. It was the box, and nobody was blocking shots because the goalie had plenty of equipment on. Our job was to keep the guys away from the front. To me, a much easier way to penalty kill. It was also a much easier way to play on the power play. I don't know because I don't want to get into whether there's structure or no structure or whatever, but penalty killing is pretty rudimentary.
You'd think.
It is. Now, I'll go to the only penalty killer in our family is Landon. He's killed penalties in the NHL. He's killed penalties for a decade of pro hockey. He's explaining to me, because I asked him, when they started going into that diamond, when they started going where the top guy swings all the way across with the defenseman, we used to hand him off to the guy on the other side. And Landon's explaining why all that happens. It's really very rudimentary. Why Bo can't get it, or why even JT Miller ends up on the other side of the ice, like four guys packed into that one corner. It's the Matthews goal. Like, of all the guys, he's back there. Let somebody else fiddle around with it over there. I don't want him shooting it. Right? That's the wrong guy. But it seems like they get a little puck focused. And so you can be passive or aggressive. You can't be passive aggressive. You can't be half of each. And I think right now they've lost their mojo. They've lost their connection. Like half the guys are being aggressive, half the guys are being passive, and it opens up pass seams all over the place. Why Bo's not better at it, I don't quite know. I mean, to me, it's again, and I'm going to qualify this, but I never penalty killed. But to me, it's a read. The whole thing is a read. And if you can read where that puck's going, you get your stick in there, and like Mitch Marner's a terrific penalty killer. He doesn't block any shots, but he's got a stick in the way. And I use him as an example as somebody that wasn't even considered a penalty killer. Like it's frustrating to watch with their penalty killing because aside from everything else, if the penalty killing had been a little better over the first 15 games of the year, they're probably not in this spot.
No, probably not. No.
Never mind anything else, just that.
Small nuance, covering the World Under 17s last week, particularly on the power play, but not even always on the power play, a 2-1-2 face-off setup with the board winger not on the boards, parked behind the two forwards. So imagine,
for the shooter, you mean he's there for shooting?
For shooting, sort of being in between the two defensemen. So you've got three options to pull the puck back to. Have you seen that in the NHL yet?
Okay, but so is that board winger? Is he on the top of the circle?
Right. A little askew. Again, like sort of equidistant in between the defensemen. Right.
So if you had when I played, if you had a shooter winger, you put him back there.
Yeah.
We never had anybody on the boards. Then they'd squeeze a defenseman down on, like we'd squeeze a defenseman down on the board. So if there was a 50-50 puck, we'd have a chance at it. But no defenseman wanted to take that chance because then they're stuck.
Exposed. Yeah.
So I like it if your centerman's good.
Yes.
If you've got a centerman that's like 55%, I think you can manufacture a quick scoring chance. And if you lose the draw, most times you're going to lose it clean in that spot. You're not going to lose it to the board. So I'm willing to take that chance. That
totally.
On the one that kind of skittles its way over there and you lose the 50-50 puck, I don't think that happens very, very much that I would worry about it. I like if that puck comes back, the winger can't shoot it for whatever reason, he can go back to the D. Now he can open up in the slot. The other D can go down. Offensive play now is movement. It's trying to confuse. It's trying to make those defenders read and react. And when everybody's in the same spot, you don't even really have to read anything. You just react because you know where they're standing. But if they're in different places, it makes it a lot harder.
We were wondering about Oliver Ekman-Larsson, a steep decline in the ice time Tuesday, didn't get used much in the third period, has had some struggles this year. Are you noticed a drop-off? Is this sort of the next phase for Oliver Ekman-Larsson?
Well, I do think 24 minutes is too much. 23, 24 minutes, I think it's too much. And so what again, you got to get into the guy's head. And so I think a lot of times when a player knows he's playing 18, 19 minutes as a forward or 23, 24 minutes as a defenseman, without even really thinking about it, you're starting to conserve what you do. So if they can box some really heavy and tough minutes, like, the other night Burroughs was out there and you got I love the kid's heart, right? And Luke Schenn doesn't need to be out there when you need the puck moved. Luke Schenn needs to be there when you need to defend. And so if you can box those minutes into those guys and give Ekman-Larsson less minutes, but part of it is you got to move. You've got to move the puck, jump in the play. Like if you start to more efficiently utilize the minutes, I think that, 17 to 20 minutes is probably a really good spot. And look, you'd like Ekman-Larsson a lot more if his contract was different, but you have him at the number you do. So now you have to find what's the best way to make him the best player. Whether you can look at the contract and go, geez, for that dollar, he should be playing X minutes more. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's on the cap. It's in your lineup. What's the best way we can use it?
And make it usable. Make it so that you're not regretting every shift over the boards, right? And so,
well, but if you're putting them out there 24 minutes, there's a point of diminishing return, not just for him, but for most players. Like the engine doesn't go that way all the time, and so I'm gonna take this shift easy a little bit. I see who I'm out against. And then you get burned because maybe that's the shift. The guys you think you don't have to race up the ice against, they're good forecheckers, and they're fourth line. They're never, they're not going to score very much, but they grind you. You take a penalty, or now that's the first shift of three where you can't get out of your zone. Like every player wants to play more. Everyone. When I played 16 minutes, I wanted to play 18. When I played 18, I wanted to play 20. Everybody's the same. But it's up to the coaching staff to go, okay, what's the prime number of minutes for each guy? And it's different for everybody.
Lastly, Ray, as we all know, the coach is under fire here. What's it like for a room when there's coaching instability or when you're hearing rumors about the head coach's future?
It's on everybody's tongue, everybody's mind. Same as when there's a lot of noise about a trade. It's, the guys will say inevitably, we can only control what we can control, which in reality is 100% true. But when you're sitting having a coffee, somebody's going to say, hey, have you talked to your agent? Did you hear anything? Have you, it's like water. It just keeps flowing. And it erodes all the time. So the way out of it is you start to play a few good games and you quiet the noise, or something happens, because it's always kind of there. Even when it goes away for 10 days, it's always kind of niggling in the back of your brain. And somebody's always going to, guaranteed, somebody is always going to hear something, true or not, and it's going to come into the room. Like the gossip in the league is the gossip in the league.
Right.
And it's
everybody's got a grapevine. Yeah.
Anyway, somebody's talked to a guy in Philadelphia who talked to a guy in Dallas, and, it's like the game of telephone. By the time it gets back to your room, it's not right, but it doesn't stop. It just,
to me, also be really bad for guys trying to curry favor or win their way back into the hearts. Like if Podkolzin or a Höglander trying to show this coach, hey, I'm your guy, you can trust me again, but not really knowing if the coach is going to be there next Tuesday. Like, so then you're sort of wondering, like, why am I busting my ass here? Like, to win favor for a coach is not going to be there next week.
So I would come to you with that thought.
Yeah.
If you had mentioned that, and I'd say, hey, why don't you just curry favor with like everyone?
Yeah.
Like play good, because the guy behind the bench is either going to be there or not, and you're still not going to have anything to do with it. Like, make sure you get your game playing. That's because guys worry about, I was the same, man. I worried about way too much. Way too much. Like, I never got along with Rick Lee when he was coaching in Hartford. We just never got along. He wanted me to play different. I wanted him to coach different. And, and so whenever something would happen, I'd be pissed off at him. Well, you can't play with the coach on your shoulder. You just have to play. And it's hard when everybody's always talking about it. The guys can deny it all they want, whether they're talking about it or not, but they are. Like, you just are, because it's your world and it matters. And so it's inevitable. Somebody's going to bring it up, and even if it's dead quiet for 5 days, somebody's going to hear something, that you're going to be having a coffee and someone's going to say, hey, did you hear this? And you don't even know if it's true or not, but it starts to make its own life.
Marvelous stuff. Enjoy Germany, and give our best to Landon. We'll catch up soon.
Well, you bet. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy the weather.